Nancy, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you got a new book out here for my YouTube viewers. There it is.
20 years after the
Yeah,
first.
well, you didn't want to rush it. You wanted to get it right.
I wanted to
Memoir.
learn some stuff.
Beg your pardon?
I wanted to learn some stuff first.
Well, you did. You
Took me
learned some
20 years.
stuff, didn't you? Your relationship to writing goes back a long way. Were you, as a young person, interested in it?
Oh, I in our household, we weren't allowed to buy Hallmark cards. We had to make our cards and write something. And I remember I was 7 and I made my mother's birthday card, and I have a sister named Margie, and I have no brother. And I wrote, "Happy birthday to mom, from Margie and Nancy and Tom and Tom." And my mother looked at it and she said, "Oh, honey, this is wonderful, but who's Tom?" And I remember rolling my eyes and saying, "Oh, it rhymes with mom." Now, she had the opportunity to nip the little writer in the bud, but she went, "Oh, of course," like, how stupid of me. So that's validation at age 7 right away.
Wow.
So
I love it. You know what I
Yeah.
like about that story is you were a true writer. You weren't going to let facts get in the way of a good story, right?
Yeah, and I was going to get a brother named Tom somehow.
So you right away, you're kind of interested in it. You have a kind of profound experience with a very famous spiritual teacher, Ram Dass, of all
Yep.
people. And how old were you when you met him and started studying with him?
Old. I read Be Here Now in 1977.
Okay.
It changed my life. I remember thinking, wait a minute, there's a now?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Oh, and you can be in it. Everything changed. It dropped
Wow.
me, well, smoking pot at the same time,
Right.
and
Well,
Ram Dass, they go together.
yeah.
I just dropped out of my head into my heart. And it was the first time I lived from here. And everything changed. I just started falling in love with trees and humans and animals. And I stopped judging, not really, but I attempted.
Well, you know what it's like, I would say is you understood there was a practice to begin that involved not judging. Right?
That's it.
And were you writing before then?
Yeah, I was writing. Yeah.
What kind of stuff were you writing?
It's the personal essay. I had, I think the first thing, not I think, I know the first thing I wrote and got published was I started running. And it was the first discipline I had ever had. I had never done anything hard. I always dropped anything that was going to be a challenge. So running, it was really the first time I pushed myself.
And you wrote about that. And so this was the first.
That was the first thing. And I submitted it to the local paper and to the big city paper at the same time because I didn't know.
Right.
And the local paper called me and they said, "We're using it." And I said, "Yay." And then the city paper called and they said, "We've put an art piece with it. It's coming out Thursday." And I went,
"Oh, wow."
Actually, I know it was a very big no-no. So they yelled at me and did not put it in. But it was sort of the beginning of my realizing that, okay, if you write the truth, because in the piece, I basically admitted that I had done nothing. And this was the first time at that late stage that I was actually finding out that you could push yourself and have, just a success, that kind of a success, and feel unbelievably high about working hard. And I had never been a hard worker.
So before this book, you were teaching writing of a kind. You were writing, it's writing from the heart of.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
So you were leading these workshops. And for a long time. Yeah.
A long time. Yeah. Before you were born.
You don't know that. No. I assure you that is not the case. But thank you. That's very sweet of you. So, all right, you're writing for it. So talk to us about that. What is that when you taught writing for the fort? First of all, how'd you get the idea for it? And then what was it like when you were teaching it?
Well, I had always written, as I said, and I had some things published. I got an obscene phone call. They don't do that anymore.
No, not really.
But this was just, I had a very unique experience. The guy called and I was cooking and the oil was bubbling and the kids were running through the house and the dog was yipping and I couldn't hear him. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you repeat that? And he did, but I still couldn't hear him. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna take it in the den, which I did take it in the den. So I went into the den and I yelled to the kids, hang up the phone. And then I said, I'm so sorry. So what did you say? And he said, can I suck your tit, baby?
Oh, geez.
Well,
he was so,
no
I love
way.
that he was willing to repeat it again and again.
I know. There was no way that I was going to hang up. I had invested way too much time with this guy. So I said, do you have any idea what this kind of phone call does to a person? And there was this long pause and he said, I know he was thinking, I'm supposed to do the talking. Why?
Right.
He said, no, I thought girls like that. And I said, you know what? There probably are some, but you have to find them. I said, so I have a question. Do you know me?
Right.
And he said, no. And I said, thank you. That's because it's very scary. You have no idea. I'm shaking here. Wow. And I said, you don't want to do this anymore. This is not a nice thing to do. And you sound like a nice person. And he said, well, I'm sorry. And I said, great that you apologize. So we're going to hang up now. And he said, it was a big expression in the 70s. He goes, okay, later. No later.
No later.
We're done. I hung up the phone. And at dinner, I was just very proud of myself that
that was great. God, you handled it perfectly.
I didn't bash the phone down. I was shaking, but I felt like we had connected as two human beings. I didn't say you're a bad person. I said, don't do this anymore. So, my kids, I'm telling the story and my kids were like, please pass the butter. And the next night at dinner, the phone rang and I said, hello. And he said, hey, how you doing? And I went, oh, actually, we're having dinner. He said, oh, okay, I'll call you back. And he called me back and I said, so where do you work? And he said, I work at Goodrich Tire. And I said, do you like your job? And he said, no, I hate my job. I said, well, you got to look for another one. He said, well, I'm thinking of going up to Vermont to work on my uncle's chicken farm. I said, that sounds great. You'll be outdoors. You'll be with a family relative. He said, no, I hate my uncle. I said, no, then that's not a good idea. The guy called me about once every 4 days and my kids would answer the phone. Mom, it's your obscene phone call guy. I knew that I had to write it because every time I told the girlfriend the story, they'd crack up laughing. So I wrote it and NPR had not, they didn't have a little commentaries yet.
Right.
But I don't know why I thought it should go on there. And I rented a sound studio and I taped it and they aired it that night.
Wow.
The whole lot changed. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
And then everything I wrote from then on, they started airing. And so I got this call. You asked me how I started the workshop. I know this is long-winded, but it's worth it.
That's all right. It's a great story.
So I get this call from this fancy schmancy writer in town. And she says, we would like you to be in our writing group. Well, I knew them all. They were all published. And I got there and there were about 14 women and they had been meeting for years.
Okay.
And the first woman who was a pre-designated reader, they had told her to bring something. She reads her piece. It's stunning.
Okay.
And the first person who responded sounded like this. Harriet, I felt that your characters were really rather one-dimensional.
Oh, geez.
I mean, I couldn't relate to them. And then one by one, everybody in that circle
picked it apart.
Something that was wrong.
Yeah.
And they were wrong. And the piece was beautiful. And then there was peach cobbler, a whole table of delicious desserts. And I went to the University of Virginia and they always had peach cobbler and I loved it. And so I glommed and put on a false kind of smile and socialized a little bit. And I got home and my husband greets me and he goes, so how was it? And I said, oh, mean-spirited. Oh, these people, not only are they mean, but they're wrong. He said, you're going back? I said, yeah, they're my mentors. These are the big writers. Next week, another pre-designated reader. She reads her piece. It's gorgeous. And the same thing, the first person who spoke, she must have gone to the same surgeon to have her. Right. She said, Becky, I really have to admire your perseverance. I mean, you just don't quit, do you, dear? She said, I went out to the car and wrote that at the end of the evening. I wrote down what she said because I could not believe it. And then there was this blueberry thing. It was unbelievable. The little wild Maine blueberries.
Yeah.
So I glommed and I socialized and I was very nice, even though I wanted to get out of there. And I got home with blue teeth. And
Yeah.
my husband said, so, and I went, oh, they should have nothing to do with writing. They should do a cookbook. That's what these people should do. He said, you're going back? I said, yeah, I'm reading next. He said, and you're not scared? I said, no, they're not going to do it to the new person.
Oh my God. Of course they're going to do it to the new person.
They did.
That's what they do.
And that's what they do. And I, this is what I did. I don't know if you can see this, but
So she's got her pen. She's got her pen and she's writing.
Like
Yeah.
I took notes like, oh,
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
Oh, I hadn't realized. Right. Oh my
Right.
dear. Wrote everything down they said. And then there was apple crisp. You know my priorities already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, but I knew I had to get out of there because the tears were right there. And I left and I got into the car and I took a bite and I could not swallow. And I did not write
Wow.
for 2 years, not 2 days.
2 years?
2 years, nothing.
Holy.
Nothing. Every time I sat down to write, and I knew they were wrong, I was like, oh, and I knew I had given my power to the wrong people. And I think it's very universal to do that.
Wow.
And I just got so mad. So the way I got back to it was that we were listening to the radio and NPR called me and they said, you have any more stuff? And that got me back.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. And that experience said, I got to lead a workshop.
Well, you know what I did? We had a very successful business for a while and we made money for about 8 years. Joel says 12, I say 8. And so I was rich. I was playing tennis in little tennis whites and I was driving a very nice car.
Right.
And then we lost everything. And it was too late to get a teaching job. And I don't know what possessed me, but I think we have a wise person in here.
Yeah.
And every so often she speaks up and she said, how about a writing? I had never even heard the word workshop. I'm not kidding. I had never.
Wow.
Heard the
Wow.
word workshop. Well, this was a long time ago. I put a little ad in my local paper, writing workshop in my home. I got 12 people and I knew them all kind of. And they came and guess what happened? The same mean-spirited.
Started.
They
right.
all were criticizing each other. And what I saw was shoulders went up, faces got constricted, and the writing got generic. So we did 10 Tuesday nights. I knew I had failed and I was very sad and it ended. And I said, well, I'm never doing that again. I had taught college English and I had taught high school English,
different,
but it was
different.
totally different, right?
Yep.
And I was so miserable, but that same little wise woman, she plopped into my head and I said, no, I'm doing it again. I put another ad in. And this time when people called, I said, do you know me? If they said no, I said, okay, you're in. I have to reinvent myself. And 8 people came. And when they gathered, I said, I've only done this once and I failed miserably, but I learned something. Creativity requires safety. You will be safe here.
Amen.
That rule is when you finish reading, we will tell you what we loved. That's it. This isn't about product. It's about process.
Yeah.
So that's what I do.
All right. So that's good. You all should sign up for it. I think you'd appreciate it. But I got one more question for you, Nancy. If writing, all the writing you've done in your short life has taught you anything, it's taught you what?
Wow.
That's tough, isn't it?
I think that the most important part about all these experiences, you want to just write them and get it out of your body because it's been in your liver and your heart and your pancreas. But if you don't do the work of sobbing and feeling the broken heart, then you've just written a very detached, probably well-written treatise. But really, you got to slog through the shit. You got to slog through your sorrow. So I'm a big proponent of sorrow.